Hello everyone, and welcome to our Windows Application Management webinar. I'm Juha Haapsaari from Centero, and today's show is mainly targeted for managed service providers working with Windows Endpoint Management. But the same challenges are affecting also organizations doing Windows Endpoint Management by themselves. During the webinar, feel free to ask questions on the chat. We have people online to give answers right away. And at the end of the webinar, we will go through together at least some of your questions. We have a wide range of different job roles attending to the webinar. Therefore, the content is quite high level. So please be active on the chat and ask also those technical questions so you will get the most out of this session. So let's dive into the world of application management. Before we jump into the details, a very short introduction to Centero as a company. Centero was founded back in 2007, and our main focus is to centralize and automate endpoint management. We have more than 300 customers, and plenty of those are managed service providers, using our services to enhance their own endpoint management services. Our services are used in more than 200,000 endpoints, and one of our core services, application packaging, is providing more than 500 enterprise-ready applications yearly. So today is all about learning what is application management and why it is so important nowadays. Of course, I will also tell you how we can help you on your application management journey. So let's start by looking why application management is more important now than ever. In big picture, cybersecurity threats has shifted from targeting weaknesses in operating systems to find weaknesses in applications and user actions. If we first think the organization level, organizations want to save time by automating application management and are ready also to pay some extra for the automation that eventually will lower the total costs. And especially nowadays, a very important aspect is to keep the organization safe from different cybersecurity threats. Also, IT department benefits from the application management are very straightforward. The more we standardize our application environment, more easier it is to manage the environment, whether it's about running only applications required by users, to providing support to users, or to manage licensing on applications. In addition, end users will benefit from application management also. Users get the latest features to make them more productive, but also keeping users safe when connected to untrusted networks. And if we think what would happen if application management is not in use, we would have notably higher risk for security breaches. Our application environment would be complex and would require more resources to be supported. And also we would get more frustrated end users trying to keep up with the updates. And usually performing the updates manually requires a local admin access to the operating system, and if we allow that, we are going to make our environment less secure. A while ago, we did a small research in Facebook for organization end users about what frustrates the most in application updating. 40% of the respondents said that updating the applications is confusing. Finding out when and how to update is causing frustration on users. Also, 40% of the respondents said that they have lost valuable work time because of the updating. And 20% of the respondents also stated that performing the update was badly timed and there is too much of these application updates to perform. That makes sense, and we can all relate to the answers. We probably all have been in the situation where we thought that the application update timing was the worst possible. Even we are IT-oriented people, and we do understand and realize the importance of these application updates. So there is also much room for improvement on end user side that we can tackle with good application management process. How can we then improve the end user experience with good application management? Tracking of new application versions and end of life deadlines is essential, and it belongs to both updating and removal phases. This needs to be very consistent action, otherwise we will compromise our security. So do not take any shortcuts here. Communication is an important part of all these phases. Let all parties know what is happening and why. Plan your communication so that it is targeted to correct audience at the correct time, and the content is clear. And also automate communications as much as possible. Automate the deployment of the applications so that you interfere your end users as little as possible. Use silent deployment as much as possible, where users does not need to take any actions to perform the update, and make your installation packages enterprise ready. So what is actually the application management process, also known as application lifecycle management? And usually the first thing that comes to our mind when someone talks about Windows application management is the process of updating the applications. It's also fair to say that it's usually the most important and also the most hardest phase in application lifecycle management. This phase requires a lot of actions, including but not limited to monitoring when new versions become available, evaluating whether update is security update or otherwise needed by the organization users, how to make the installation package ready for mass deployments, and also testing is a vital part of this phase. When this phase of the application lifecycle is executed, because there is a security hole on the versions that are in use, this phase is also called as patch management. So basically, patch management equals to updating when we are fixing these security holes. This phase should be a continuous process as long as the application exists in our environment. But application management is more than just updating and patching. Application lifecycle management includes also installation phase. So how to get the application initially to the users that need the application. This is usually quite straightforward with deployment systems, but there are several ways how the application gets to the devices. It can be installed to devices during initial operating system deployment. It can be installed from deployment system to all devices, group of devices, or based on user roles. And also, it can be installed based on self-service requests by the users. But whatever the initial deployment method is, after the initial installation, the application should always end up into our continuous updating and patching phase. But applications do not live forever either, so we need more from our application lifecycle management. We need to be able to remove applications from the devices when applications are no longer needed. There can be several reasons for application removals. For example, application becomes end of life, like the situation now we have with Adobe Flash Player. Users' roles are changed in organization and applications are not needed anymore for some users. Application is changed to another application providing the same functionality, so we need to switch the application. Also, from security perspective, it's highly important to remove or update all applications that are not up to date. It's always better to remove the application when not needed, rather than leave the application to updating and patching phase. The worst case scenario is that application is left to environment without any update and patch process in place. So how do you then plan and execute application lifecycle process? Of course, tasks required to implement a good application lifecycle management process depends on the current state and the knowledge you have on the target environment. Knowledge is always power, so know your target environment and find out these kind of issues and things. What applications are currently installed to the devices? What applications are actually used in devices and by users? Do you need all your current applications? For example, is one image editor application enough? Do you have end-of-life applications still installed in environment? And how often do you need to update the applications that you use? And what are the target users of your applications? So getting information is really important phase. When you have the information, then you can start designing the actual application lifecycle management process for your applications. And you should also decide if single process is enough for all applications and situations, or do you need application-specific processes, or do you need to have separate process when performing critical patch management? Then application packaging. Yeah, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's very hard. But you need to aim for enterprise-ready packages that work as a single unit, allowing you to perform all lifecycle management phases. So supporting installation, updating, and removal of the application in silent mode, and also manual actions with user interface. Also remember to perform technical testing for each released versions before deploying the applications. And of course, you need to plan actions needed in your deployment systems to make the actual deployments as automated as possible. And usually we want to have at least 2 different types of lifecycle management processes for different kind of applications. So in big picture, we usually divide our applications to line of business applications and utility applications. Line of business applications are essential for organization and should be always be usable. Utility and other applications support our productivity and makes our lives easier. But of course, organization can survive without these utility applications, at least for a while. Line of business application lifecycle management requirements are usually decided based on these facts. Line of business applications are not updated so often because vendors do not usually publish updates so often, and there are not so many widely exploited security holes in these applications. For these applications, lifecycle management can be also manual if benefits from the automation are less than the work required to make updates suitable for the automation. Users need to have these applications, so we need to make sure that updating really works and supporting applications also work with the latest version. So a lot of packaging and testing work required for line of business applications. On the other hand, utility application management requirements are decided usually based on these facts. These applications get a lot of updates and require patching to keep security at high level. Lifecycle action needs to be executed so often, so deployment systems is a must to be used. Usually third-party solutions are used for lifecycle management or just for patching part to automate deployment actions. So what kind of tools we can use for application lifecycle management then? There are many tools for creating installation packages, some with limited functionality and some with all the bells and whistles. The most important component on using packaging tools is the user actually using the tool. You need to know how Windows operating system works under the hood to make good installation packages. Even the best tool, which I would say is the Flexera Admin Studio, can't do everything automatically for you. Also, there are many deployment systems available in addition to the Microsoft systems, where some just provide application deployment functionality, where others contain at least most of the required endpoint management features. Third-party application management and patching has also a bunch of solutions to choose from. Some are focused on patch management using own client to detect and patch only security holes, and some containing also application lifecycle management features. Depending on the environment and requirements, it could be that several tools are used. For example, one for patch management and other for application lifecycle management. So how can Centero then help you with all this? We can analyze current application environments and help designing the application lifecycle management process. We also do deployment system related consultancy and implementations, but our core focus is in application lifecycle management tools and enterprise-ready packaging services. We provide fixed-priced packaging for ad hoc requests and also do application packaging as a service to keep any application you have always up to date. Our Centero Software Manager service is all about automating application lifecycle management process. And for managed service providers, we already have multi-tenant management available for CSM for Intune service. Also, we are constantly improving Centero Software Manager service, and as the next step we will introduce Centero Software Manager Preview apps feature, which will make even easier and faster to onboard more applications to Centero Software Manager as supported applications. For partners, the multi-tenant management will be extended to support targeting whole deployment process to several Intune tenants. And later on, SCCM environment management will start to move to our management portal. And that will support managing multiple SCCM environments from single location, so from our management portal. So quite nice additional features coming in future, but the service is already excellent to automate application lifecycle management. So start your free trials if you have not yet tested Centero Software Manager service. I hope you have received some ideas and guidelines how to start or develop your application management processes. And next, we will start to go through some of your questions, and huge thanks for those that need to step out at this stage for attending this webinar. So let's see if we already have some questions available on the chat. Okay, and there's one question that what does enterprise ready mean? And yeah, as Tuukka has already answered the questions, enterprise ready means that the application is designed and the application installation package is designed to be deployed on enterprise level, so targeting a lot of devices and a lot of users. For us, for example, it means that we will remove automatic updates that the application itself is trying to perform on the device. We are removing that because, of course, we update the applications using the Centero Software Manager, and for example, customers might be using the application and updating the application using SCCM or other deployment system. So we are updating the application using the deployment system. And of course, if the application itself would try to update to the latest version, that would probably require admin access from the end user, and that is something that we don't want. Also, removing something that is not required on enterprise environment from the installation package, like shortcuts or let's say additional toolbars to the web browsers, those are removed on the enterprise ready packaging. So we try to make an application installation package that is usually meant for a broad audience, also for home users and every users that require the application, to make that application as enterprise ready and suitable for enterprise distribution. Very good question there. Okay, CSM service, so Centero Software Manager service, is that fully automatic, like configure and forget? I mean, is it automatic or do I need to configure deployments every time? It is fully automatic, so it's configure and forget type. So whenever you start to deploy an application, you will use an existing deployment process or create an application-specific deployment process. And the deployment process means, how do you want to deploy the application? What are your test users? What are your test devices? How long time you want to test in test devices before you start the full rollout? So this is the deployment process. Specify how do you want to deploy the application. And once that is done and the deployment process is saved, the Centero Software Manager then automates the rest of the tasks. Each time we will publish a new version of the application, the Centero Software Manager service automatically uses your deployment process and creates automatically all the deployments to the deployment system. So you don't need to do anything when new versions are coming up. CSM will automate that task for you. Okay, then one question, if the setup does not support unattended install, how do you automate the installation? Okay, once again, good question. And in this question, the packaging service and the packaging phase plays a really important thing. So usually applications that doesn't support by themselves the unattended installation, they are converted the Windows installer packages that support the unattended and silent installation. So basically doing the packaging work and converting the legacy application to the modern Windows installer package, and then we are able to perform also the unattended installations. Okay, then question, does your Intune solution require any client? No, it does not. So our CSM for Intune solution integrates directly with a customer's Intune tenant using the Microsoft Graph API, and it just creates the applications and the deployments into the Intune, and then Intune will install the applications to clients. So no client installation required on the Windows 10 devices. How do I start application lifecycle management if I use Microsoft Intune? Okay, once again, a good question. Of course, same process for finding out what you currently have. So Microsoft Intune also includes inventory of the applications that you have on your environment. So use that information to see what you currently have, and then start to go through the applications. Is there a room for application consolidation? Should I, for example, use one image editor in my environment, and start to limit the number of applications that you eventually need to manage? Find out the application that we need to patch constantly, and then create a process for those applications where we need to have these ongoing updates performed regularly. And then there is these business applications. Then you need to decide how do you deploy those, how do you update those, are they available for the users, do you want to force the upgrades for those? So start to go through the application list, start to think about how the application lifecycle process should be for each of the application or group of the applications. And of course, if you use Intune and you want to automate at least some of the application lifecycle management processes, then choose some third-party solution to automate, for example, CSM for Intune service. What does app management look like? So basically, app management is kind of the term for managing all the application tasks required, so installation and updating and removal. I don't know if this question was more targeted for our service, so software manager was the question more like how does it look in our service, and if you want to know how does that work and how does that look like for SCCM or for Intune, we are then able to arrange another session with you and go to a demonstration how, for example, Centero Software Manager looks like and how does it help you to actually perform the app management process. And then question, can it be used for any application? Now I think also this is a question related to our service. So if that's the case, our service can include any application. So we have a public catalog available for applications that you are immediately able to start to use and patch in your environment and deploy in your environment. But in addition to that public list, we are able to include any application for the customer to be used in one environment or several environments. So any application can be included to the service, but of course, for the applications that are not on the public list, they are not immediately available. We need to go through the packaging work and then publish the application for selected customers. And of course, it's going to have some effect on pricing also. Okay, then next question. Do you think that third-party application updates should be tested before approving them to production? Does your Centero manager support that? Yeah, and at least we think, and I think that they should be tested, depending on the environment, and of course a little bit depending on the kind of the update. Is it a really, really high security related update? The kind of how much do you need to test is a good question, and that depends by the organization to organization. But I would say that there should be always some test phase before you start the mass rollout to find out at least the most of the problems. For example, the problems that you are not even able to install. For example, for some reason, the update does not work in your environment, or when you update the application, your business critical application does not work anymore. So that kind of testing, I would recommend. It's necessary for enterprise management of the applications. And yes, Centero Software Manager supports that by allowing you to create the deployment process. So in the deployment process, you say that, okay, for this or these applications, the testing will be done on these devices by these users, and they will have for let's say 2 or 3 business days time to perform the testing and report for possible problems. If nothing is heard from the users, so we assume that everything is working, the process goes on automatically and starts your production deployment. Okay, then next question, do you already support MSIX technology? Something that we are constantly looking for. We have done also MSIX packaging work, so we kind of support fully the technology. We are able to start to use that. But currently, all of our application we are deploying using SCCM or Windows Intune, so our deployment channels. We are using MSI packages, or for some applications also the legacy exe installers to perform the actions. There is some kind of issues and technical challenges about MSIX, why we are not able to use that for all of our applications. But definitely, when the time is correct and we are able to start to shift for MSIX and the platforms are supporting that, when we are able to support all the things that are required by the applications side, then we will start to support also the MSIX fully. But we are already able to create MSIX packages for customer-specific applications. Okay, then next questions. We have Azure AD hybrid devices and Azure AD only devices. Does CSM support both scenarios? Yes, we do support both scenarios. So nowadays, the Intune also supports hybrid devices and Azure only devices, and our CSM for Intune allows you to deploy
the applications for both type of devices. So fully supported that one. All right, then next question. Centero Software Manager is just a tool or the service you sell? I would say it's kind of a service. So because in background of the Centero Software Manager service, we do also the packaging work. So we will do the enterprise-ready packages available for you. And then the Centero Software Manager service also contains the tool to create these deployments automatically, for example, to your SCCM environment. So it's a service containing the tool to do the automatic tasks for you. All right. The next question, application management is hard because we have dozens of different user profiles and all of them want different applications. Now we must install big list of applications for all computers. Good luck with that life cycle management. Yeah, that's kind of the things that we need to battle all the time with environments. Users sometimes see that these devices and Windows devices also are kind of personal devices, and they have personal preferences about what applications they want to use and so on. So at least on the bigger environments, we might end up in the situations that we need to support a lot of applications. But of course, from the organization side and the enterprise side, I think the best solution for that is to actually try to narrow down and limit the number of the applications. Sometimes it might be easier, sometimes it's really hard, and we need to have these applications available for users also that they are able to select what kind of applications they do. Then, of course, one good thing in that is that if you need to support a really wide range of different applications, then you should also kind of invest to the patch management and vulnerability management side. So, for example, Microsoft Defender ATP is a really excellent tool for finding out what applications you have on versions that have these vulnerabilities currently, and then lets you know what are the applications that you need to actually then patch. And then you're just able to decide, do you want to patch that manually? Do you want the end users to do the patching, or do you want to automate that with your deployment environment? But yeah, that is the kind of thing that we need to live with, that there are requests from users, and we might end up in the situation that we must allow the users to use applications they want, or we want to start to restrict what applications they are able to use on their work machines. A lot of excellent questions. So there is still some time to send new questions. We are more than happy to get answers for you. And also remember, if you want to know more about, for example, our services and our tools, you are able to always contact us, and we are glad to arrange another session to go demonstration of the services that you would be interested to see how they actually work and how they automate the application deployment side. Okay, we still have one more question, so briefly let's go through that also. We use SCCM and evaluate Intune. Can we use CSM for both at the same time? Yes, you are able to use both at the same time. Of course, you have option within SCCM and Intune. If you want to create this co-management mode, you are able to use that and then decide inside SCCM where do you want to transfer and where do you want to use the workloads when we are talking about application updating. But also you are able to use CSM for SCCM to create the applications and the deployments automatically to the SCCM side. But at the same time, the same applications, you are also able to use CSM for Intune and create the processes there. And then these applications would be automatically created to your Intune tenant. So both ways you are able to start to move and shift your workloads from SCCM to Intune, using the co-management or then just using both of our integrations at the same time.
Okay, so probably that was the last question. So once again, thank you for joining.